The research trail for Roy E. Davis had grown cold. I'd traced him through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas from 1914 to 1917. Largely thanks to his highly publicized and unusual immoral and criminal activities, I traced him through Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Due to his rank of official spokesperson for the Ku Klux Klan and his living a dual life with multiple wives in multiple states, I'd tracked him through Tennessee, Kentucky, and southern Indiana where he planted the Prophet's Church. But after Roy Davis was extradited from Jeffersonville to Hot Springs, Arkansas, in connection with murder and grand theft auto, Davis himself appears to have gone into hiding. There was no trace of him to be found. Roy Davis is a common name, and there were numerous Roy Davis listings. There were over 36,000 records to examine in just one of the many archive tools. I began searching multiple keywords, multiple names familiar to the message. By sheer accident, I stumbled onto a Reverend Roy E. Davis in the Los Angeles Times. Former Congressman William D. Upshaw had helped this Roy E. Davis pose as an FBI agent to secure donations for an orphanage. William Upshaw was a name that I was intimately familiar with. Former Congressman Upshaw was one of the more famous people that the Prophet claimed to have healed. Suddenly, all the pieces of this puzzle were starting to make sense. The Ku Klux Klan, the liquor and criminal activity, the healing campaigns, the Knights of the Flaming Sword, the crippled congressman, seen posing with his crutches in many photographs. It made sense why leaders of the message would erase years of the Prophet's early ministry, and why the Prophet himself would change or erase so many stories of past experiences. I turned back to the photograph of the early church congregation and examined it more closely. I could see the Prophet standing in the middle of the photograph holding his Bible in his left hand, as he often posed for the camera. Several people were standing on either side of him, filling the platform from the back wall of the church to the first pew. There were several people sitting in the pews twisted awkwardly to show their faces to the camera. I looked closely at the figure that had been inked out, sitting next to one of the structural columns of the building. Suddenly I noticed it. Next to the figure that had been blacked out, erased from the photograph, was a single crutch leaning against the pew beside him. Was the figure that had been erased the former Congressman Upshaw? Was this the single crutch that he posed with in all the photographs that I had seen of the former congressman?